So Black Widow is in theaters, and guys, just first of all, it is so nice to be able to see an MC movie in theaters again. It's been over 2 years since we've been able to do that since Spider-Man: Far From Home. I've really, really missed it, and it's so nice to be able to have this experience again. And there's going to be a lot more coming this year, next year, in the future. So nice to have MCU movies in theaters back. Just thought I'd start right off with that. Now to get into the review. Starting right off with the good, the characters and the performances in this movie are really, really good. Scarlett Johansson, first of all, the main character, of course, brings it as always. I've always loved her as this character. She's always done a great job. And in this movie, she does it again. Finally, get to see her at the forefront of a movie. We learn so much more about her backstory, about her character, about her mindset, and what makes her who she is, why she does certain things. And it was really nice to see that. But honestly, to me, the people that sold the show were, first of all, David Harbour, he brings a lot of humor to this movie. Most of the funny scenes come from either him or the other person I'm going to talk about who stole the show. But he wasn't in it quite as much, but he was really, really good, and I really hope to see him in future MCU projects. I really enjoyed his character every time he was on screen. Just had a big smile on my face and was enjoying everything he was doing. But the real show stealer for me, the number one takeaway from this movie, the performance and character that really blew me away was my girl Florence Pugh. Of course, due in part to the fact that I have and a bunch of other people, of course, massive crush on her. Florence, hit your boy up. But she was phenomenal in this movie. It was a little off-putting with the accent at first, but I got used to it as it went along. Her character gets so fleshed out just within one movie to the point where she almost steals the show and almost outshines Scarlett Johansson. Scarlett's it's still the main character in the movie, but Yelena, Florence Pugh's character, Natasha's sister, gets a lot to do as well. We learn so much about her. The performance is great. She brings a lot of humor to the table. There's some really good interactions between her and Natasha, both funny and serious. A lot of the emotion comes from the interaction between those two characters, and just phenomenal stuff. She's going to be in the MCU more, and I would love to see what they're going to do with her character from here on out. Just every time she was on screen, such great stuff. She is so good in this movie and such a great actress in general that I can't wait to see what the MCU does with her and what she does in the future in general. Rachel Weisz, I thought was fine. She didn't blow me away in this movie. I don't think they gave her a ton of interesting things to do compared to the rest of the family, but she was fine. It didn't really stand out. I thought David Harbour and Florence Pugh and ScarJo stood out more than she did. But she was still fine. I mean, she's always going to bring it in any movie that she's in. To continue on that, I absolutely loved the family dynamic between these characters, and I thought that was the core of this movie. Thought maybe that was going to be a little goofy, maybe going to be a weak spot of the movie, but no, that was the best part of the movie to me, was these performances and characters, their dynamics, interactions. The family stuff was so good. You learn about Natasha and Yelena's backstory, and how they came to be assassins, and the parents, what they did, and was not cool at all, but they feel bad for it now. And there's a really great scene where they're eating dinner together and talking about their past and everything that's gone on. Just the whole family dynamic was so good in this movie, and I thought it was probably the best part. It brings so much emotion to this movie, and I really dug that. Also, the action was pretty cool. I thought the action was done very well in this movie. A couple times a little bit of shaky cam, it was edited a little bit weird, but for the most part the action was really fun, intense, hand-to-hand fighting that I had a good time watching, and I thought it was done pretty well. The action was definitely, for me, another strong point of this movie. It was also very enjoyable, very fun. It was fast-paced, and I think it was paced very, very nicely. Not too fast, but not too slow. And the plot is, even though it's a spy plot, it could be fairly convoluted. For the most part, except for a few aspects of the third act, it was simple, straightforward. You know exactly what they're trying to do, and you're tracking along with them on their mission and enjoying every second of it. So I really thought that the plot structure of this movie worked pretty well. Also, the last thing for me for the good is going to be the opening credits. This movie has really good opening credits. It's definitely I don't know if the MCU usually does opening credits at all. I don't think they're really known for that. They just do the MCU intro, but the opening credits of this movie are absolutely phenomenal. They're about 3 minutes long, about the length of a song, and the song that they play. If you haven't seen it, I'm not going to give it away. It works really well for it too. I was like getting emotional, and it was really gritty and dark, and it was just very very well done. That was a huge positive for the movie that I'd kind of forgotten about by the end, but then someone mentioned it again. I'm like, oh yeah, the opening credits of this movie are really, really good. It's got to be the best opening credits of any MCU movie, and the song that plays during it, I can't stop listening to, because it elicits so many emotions. That just a montage of stuff that's happened with these Russian assassins and everything that's going on. It's so well done. I really thought that was a huge strong point for the movie. But of course, there's going to be some stuff that I didn't like. The movie's not perfect. It's not a top tier MCU movie for me. So first of all, the number one issue I had with this movie, definitely the biggest thing that I thought was a problem with this movie, was the villains. The villains in this movie are extremely lacking, especially Taskmaster. Taskmaster was a massive letdown, guys, and I'm hearing this from most people. There is one action scene with Taskmaster that's really cool, where they get to show off the abilities and everything of Taskmaster, learning other people's fighting styles and stuff. But there wasn't nearly enough of that. I thought they were going to do a lot more with that. I thought there was going to be a lot more intrigue for Taskmaster, but there was a reveal for who Taskmaster was. It was extremely underwhelming. I understand to a certain extent what they were trying to do with the character, but when that reveal happened, it just didn't land at all, and the character in the movie didn't have much to do and was extremely underwhelming. But the main villain as well, I don't know. Do we know? I don't know if this is a little bit of a spoiler. I'm not going to say who it is, because I guess it's in the cast list anyway. Either way, yeah, I'm just going to keep it. It's Ray Winstone's character. That's all I'm going to say. He is also very underwhelming. Really, really cliche, and just didn't do anything for me. No charisma, no presence, and shows up in the last part of the movie, which is the worst part of the movie, which I will touch on. But the villains just didn't do anything for me whatsoever. Definitely the weakest part of the movie, because the heroes were done so well, the villains were not. So, to continue kind of what I just alluded to, the third act is another weak point of the movie. It kind of gets away from what the other two acts were all about and becomes a cliche MCU third act a little bit, and gets a little bit contrived and convoluted at points. There's definitely some weird lines of dialogue. There's a couple weird moments. There's one moment that, if you've seen it, you know what I mean, and you've probably seen it on Twitter anyway. People are really making fun of it. First of all, don't judge a movie based on one scene like that. People do that a lot, and it's really annoying. But that one scene is really bad. I don't, like, you watch it and you're like, what the hell was that? I don't understand what was going on there. That was really, really odd. So the third act in general was a pretty big letdown, and that kind of goes hand in hand with my criticisms of the villains, because they didn't have anything interesting to do in the third act either. And then just kind of how things resolved, how certain things happened, some contrivances, some weird lines of dialogue and weird moments, just didn't really work for me, and it was a pretty disappointing third act, especially when compared to how good the rest of the movie was, in my opinion. So this isn't necessarily a negative or positive, it's just kind of something I have to mention. It would be a negative for some people, not necessarily for me, but the movie was made too late. It was made 4 or 5 years too late. So there's not really tension with Black Widow's character. We know she survives this movie and dies in Endgame. I think there's still tension with other stuff there, like as far as will the rest of the family survive, and will they bring down this big villain operation. So I don't think the movie's devoid of tension. I just think that it could have had a little more tension if it was made a little bit earlier. So I think that was something obviously worth mentioning. Of course, stay for the post-credit scene. I feel like I shouldn't have to tell you this, but every MCU movie has at least one post-credit scene. This one does only have one, but stay all the way through the credits to watch it. It's a very, very good scene, and it teases a future MCU project. So definitely when the movie's over, don't leave. Stay for that. So guys, overall, I really enjoyed this movie. I thought it was a solid return to the MCU, and I thought it was a solid start to the movie phase of Phase 4 in the MCU. I really, really enjoyed it. I thought the characters and the performances were really good. I love the dynamic, the relationships, the chemistry between the characters. I loved the family aspect and the emotion and showing the backstory of Natasha and Yelena. So much good stuff in here. There, especially the interactions between those two characters were great. The action was cool. The opening credits were phenomenal. The post-credit scene is great. But like I said, the villains really, really sucked. Definitely the weakest part of the movie, and I did not really enjoy the third act whatsoever. So, given all that, I'm going to give Black Widow a very solid 7 out of 10. So there you have it, guys. Have you seen Black Widow yet? If so, what do you think? Drop a comment below. Let me know your thoughts. Did you like it? Did you not like it? Did you think it was okay? I thought it was a pretty good movie. Definitely not top tier MCU, but I'd say probably like mid tier MCU. In the same conversation for me as like Ant-Man and Doctor Strange and stuff. But I liked it a lot. I thought it was a pretty good movie, and I'm excited for what they do with some of these characters, especially Yelena in the future. I'm excited for coming MCU projects, shows, and movies down the line this year and in the future. So if you enjoyed this video, leave a like. Likes are really important for YouTube channels. Subscribe. Hit the notification bell if you enjoy my content in general. I got a lot more stuff coming. Again, I keep teasing new things and new setup. Trust me, it's coming soon. Just, there's a couple things I got to figure out first. Anyway, thanks for sticking around. Thanks for watching, and I will see you soon.